Yo, uko, kuno, abo, bano, mama wanna get it, nice. I know food I meso, I know food I tebe, I know kaya marigi. Don't come, but don't come, ano gaya mari.
Kamba kwe uyo, ano tara mari, ano gaya mari, gara.
Right. 4 July 2023. And today I've got a very, very quick broadcast. And I'm not going to deal with a lot of issues today. I'm only going to deal with a few issues. And specifically, I want to look at the issue of the candidates, the gazetted list of candidates. And I hope that Senator Khaliphani Phugeni will be able to join me today. But if he's not able to join me, I'll bring him in another time to say his side of what is happening. So let's look at what has happened. And the most surprising thing is that the CCC has done very, very well in terms of candidates. After we looked at the Gazette of who is going to be contesting, the CCC has done very, very well. They have candidates which are more than ZANU-PF. Shockingly, the CCC has more candidates than ZANU-PF. So let's go into the numbers, and I'm going to share the PDF of the Gazette from ZEC. In fact, let's look at CCC, ZANU-PF, and I know Senator Khaliphani Phugeni has joined me. I'm just going to let him get ready in the background. So the CCC has more candidates than ZANU-PF, and I think they've got 468. ZANU-PF has got about 451 candidates, and the next party, the MDCT, has got 60 candidates. Then there's a party called UZA. They've got 58 candidates. And then we've got DUZ. That has got about 14 candidates, I think. And then we've got, obviously, ZANK, that has got 5. And we've got Free Zim Congress, that got a few candidates. We've got a mix, but the CCC has done very, very well. And I want to add Senator Phugeni. So I'm going to take a quick moment to add him. I can see that his camera is flipped over. So I'm going to ask him to check his camera. That is the issue that we've got with the camera of Senator Khaliphani Phugeni. But I would have really wanted to have Senator explaining what has happened in the MDCT. Because besides the presidential election, where we have Senator Douglas Monzora contesting, the MDCT has been a big disappointment. You can see that the MDCT of Douglas Monzora only has 60 candidates, which is almost the same candidates as UZA. UZA has got 58 candidates. So as I said in the beginning, the CCC, although they've got so many double candidates, they've got more candidates than ZANU-PF, if you look at the Gazette. And this is a good thing in terms of their ability to mobilize support from across the country. Remember, we talk about facts. The time that I was talking about the CCC having double candidates and failing to put up their candidates in Bulawayo, that is all past. ZEC has finally gazetted this list of candidates. There's nothing that can be done about it. Those candidates of CCC are going to contest, and they're probably going to win the elections in the urban areas. The CCC is very, very strong in the urban areas. The biggest problem that they have, the challenge that they have, will be to deal with the raw areas where ZANU-PF is quite strong. However, the economy is going to be a very, very big challenge for ZANU-PF. I've mentioned this in my podcast a few months ago, when I was running my podcast, that ZANU-PF is going through their worst and most difficult election. They are not going to be able to pass through this election very, very easily, especially the president, President Idi Mnangagwa. He's got a mountain to climb in terms of contesting against Nelson Chamisa. And worse, they've got Xavier Kasukwere, who is coming to disturb the vote of ZANU-PF. If you look at what Xavier Kasukwere is saying, he's specifically saying he's going for anyone who is not Karanga. So it's a tribal vote. He's going for the tribal vote. I'm going to play for you the clip where his chief campaign, people who campaign for Xavier Kasukwere, they've said they are going for the non-Karanga vote. So this is certainly a tribal vote. Who knows what is going to happen there? Also, ZANU-PF is going to get more and more divided because of what is happening with Xavier Kasukwere. I don't know how they're going to deal with this issue, but if they manage to deal with it, they will still come up with some scars. ZANU-PF is not going to have it easy this time around, and everything has changed. The game has changed for Nelson Chamisa. It is for him to lose this election in terms of the atmosphere in the country. The atmosphere is very, very toxic for ZANU-PF at the moment. And the reason being, obviously, the economy and also the internal weakness of ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF has become very, very weak. They failed to deal with Xavier Kasukwere in a decisive manner. So they've tried to go to the courts. They failed to deal with Kasukwere from a political perspective. The moment you see yourself going to court, you've lost the political battle. The political battle is never won in courts. It's won somewhere else. And ZANU-PF as a military organization, if you see them going to court, it means that they've run out of ideas. Now, let's look at the comments while we're waiting to see if Senator Khaliphani Phugeni is going to show up. And I want to look here at the first comment. Khaliphani was just supposed to join CCC like what a boss of ZANU-PF did, right? We've advised Senator Khaliphani Phugeni that he's got two choices, which was either to join CCC, where he's got a lot of popular support. His views and those views of the guys in CCC, they align. But I think the fact that he was a senator under Douglas Monzora, it was difficult for him to let go of that position. That's why he stayed with the Douglas Monzora. But I think this was not a good idea. We've also had people suggesting that maybe he should even join other parties like ZANU-PF if he didn't want to join CCC. But I know for a fact that he was not going to fit over there. There's no way that a young person can fit within ZANU-PF, especially if you're not coming from the grassroots of ZANU-PF. You cannot fit in there. You have to be someone who grew up in ZANU-PF. Let's go to Simbarashe. It says Phugeni must just join CCC. You see, everyone is saying Senator Phugeni must have joined CCC. I think he left it a bit late. And to make matters worse, I didn't see the name of Dr. Tukozani Kupe on the list of people that are contesting, which means she probably lost there in Country Park. She's not going to be contesting in Tulingube. As I said, the CCC, they've done very, very well in terms of managing to put candidates everywhere. ZANU-PF has got a tall order. They've got a tall order here. I see Senator is back. So let's try to add Senator Khaliphani Phugeni here. I'm so sorry, guys. His gadgets are acting up. Zimbabwe, you know the network how it is. So let's add him and see if he's going to be able to join me. Senator, we are live. So I don't know if you're able to hear me.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay, Senator. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Why ufuna to servant to coming up with breaking news after 3 weeks? Senator Phugeni face nomination court.
Okay, Senator, you've been gone for a very long time. So we've got a lot of catching up to do. Let's start with where you are now. What happened? How come you were not able to contest?
All right. It's I don't know whether to say it's a long or a short story. This is what happened. Nomination court was on Tuesday, about 2 weeks ago. So I was going to be part of the senatorial list for Matabeleland North. So I drove to Lupane, which is the provincial capital, on Monday. So when I got there, I had to do mop-up of council candidates for Lupane East. So I was with the candidate, the MP candidate, there mopping up his councillors, preparing them for nomination. And then Monday, on the eve of the nomination court, I had a breakdown, deep rural Lupane. So I had a breakdown there. There was no network, so I had to sleep in the car because of the breakdown. So in the morning, we tried to get a mechanic. We did get a mechanic. He looked at the car. He was under the impression that he's going to be able to fix the car. So what I did in the interim is I called Honorable Tembo. She was graceful. She came. I gave her all of my papers. I said, I'm expecting to come later according to the mechanic. But if I don't come, please submit this on my behalf. The law provides that I can have an agent there. As you saw, that HE was not there, but Honorable Ziambi did it on his behalf. So there's a provision at law for me not to be there, but to have somebody do it on my behalf. So it turns out, for whatever reason, that my papers were submitted without any signature. Not my signature, not that of any of my colleagues there to stand in as my agent. So accordingly, the presiding officer disqualified me on the basis that the nomination was not signed, or the nomination papers were not signed. So I got this from one of the colleagues from the CCC who, upon learning that, tried to call me so that they could come and pick me wherever I was and assist me. Unfortunately, there was no network. There is no network in rural Zimbabwe. So, yeah, that's how the whole thing played out. And as a consequence, I'm going to miss out this election, but I'm not lost on the political scene of Zimbabwe. I'll still find a way to serve my people, serve my country, even outside that august house.
Okay, very sad, Senator. I'm very sad to hear that's what happened. And guys, we've lost Senator Phugeni, as I was just trying to ask him some questions. The network in Zimbabwe is atrocious. I think we need a proper cell phone network in Zimbabwe. People are suffering in that country because of these network providers. And I hope that Elon Musk's network, it just comes and people get satellite network. When I travel to Zimbabwe, I use a Zambian network in Zimbabwe. Can you believe this? I have to use Airtel when I'm in Zimbabwe. This is how bad the situation is because of Econet and Net One and Telesur. Those guys are just unable to manage to have a proper network in that country. So this is terrible when we're unable to complete our discussion because of this kind of network issues. But as I was saying, let me go back. I want to answer Mkoma Mpofu. Mkoma Mpofu here is saying this time ZANU-PF is going to win with more than 70%. Mkoma Mpofu, I wish you could join me because I don't want to lie to you here. What has happened to ZANU-PF over the past 3 months is disastrous. And I want to give you my number here. If you want to join, I'll gladly give you a day when you can join me. Here is my number here. ZANU-PF is not going to have it easy this time around. And you know that I've been saying ZANU-PF with the structures, ZANU-PF is more organized and more ready than CCC. But what has happened over the past 3 months and the failure by ZANU-PF to address the economic issues, they're taking this as a small thing. and they don't understand what is coming. What is coming around the corner for ZANU-PF, especially in the presidential election, is going to be shocking to them. They're not going to understand what happened. They're not going to understand what hit them. The kind of suffering that people are going through in the past 2 months, where the rate has increased by more than, I don't know, 5,000%, from 900 to 7,000 in 2 months. That is a serious loss of value. People have lost value. People are not eating. Adults are leaving Zimbabwe, selling their property to go overseas to work menial jobs. And some of them are going there without work. In South Africa here, the situation is so bad. I'm not seeing any success for ZANU-PF. Only in 3 months, they've let everything through their fingers within the past 3 months because of the failure to take advice. Remember when you advised ZANU-PF to dollarize? That was, if you look at the series of podcasts I did 3 months ago, we told ZANU-PF that they need to dollarize. There is no way they could maintain the Zimbabwe dollar or the ZWL. They did not do that. It became a problem. Right now, Chamisa can just sit at home and not campaign. And you will see what is going to happen. It's going to be terrible. It's 2 months to go. And the situation is getting worse and worse every day. And Mr. Pofundati, I'm not campaigning for ZANU. That's why I want you to come here tomorrow or the day after. I want us to have this discussion of the reality on the ground, of what is happening in the country in terms of the exchange rates. Do you think with that kind of exchange rates, you are going to get success in the polls? You know what happened in Zambia, 20% collapse of the kwacha. It cost Lungu the election. And here you've got a 5,000% collapse of the Zimbabwe dollar. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think people are just going to say, let's vote for this political party and let's stay for the next 5 years like this? So something needs to be done. You need to act, and you need to act immediately. So that is where the problem is. You can't act as if nothing is happening. And you think the people that are coming to rallies are not seeing what is happening. So you have to be very, very careful when you're dealing with people in election year. Election year is the most important year. And don't think Chamisa is someone that you can just write off. Remember, he got a number of votes that were extremely close to President Mnangagwa, according to ZEC figures. If you get to a point where you get apathy or you get people voting for Chamisa, you may end up not even going for a runoff. Remember, I mentioned that there will be a runoff. You may end up going to a point where you don't have a runoff, but you got an outright loss. And once you have an outright loss, it cannot be fixed because the numbers speak for themselves. You see what ZEC is doing. ZEC is not the ZEC that you're used to. ZEC is doing their own thing. The kind of behavior that ZEC is doing now, it's unheard of in Zimbabwe, like registering Gasukwere and allowing CCC to put in their papers after the closing times. Those are signs that ZEC is no longer in the pocket, or at least portions of ZEC are no longer in the pocket. There are portions of ZEC that are going to announce a result where Chamisa is going to be saying he won, or there will be that division, and you're going to be having the international media looking at you. So how do you fix that? You fix that in advance. You don't wait for the day when there's an election. You got 2 months now. Fix the Zim dollar, fix the situation in the country, make sure things function. People are dying on the road. Bulawayo, I've said this. If you're driving from Bulawayo to Bedbridge and you drive after 6 o'clock, you're signing your own death certificate. You will die in that road. It will kill you. You know how many people have died on those roads. Especially, I drove between Bedbridge and Masvingo. There is 40 kilometers there where I almost lost my shocks. Driving to Kariba, I have to fly to Zambia to go to Zimbabwe. And as I just said now, I have to, sorry, apologies about that. I have to use Airtel in Zimbabwe instead of using EcoCash or EcoNet or Net1 or Telesop. Things have collapsed in terms of functionality, and no one is fixing these situations. When you get to the border, there are over 5,000 cars queued up at the border, waiting to get into the country. You've got 5,000 cars waiting to get to the country that are not cleared for weeks. That shows you that things are not functioning. You have to fix this situation. And people are just waiting to punish. That is the problem. People are waiting to punish you at the ports. And this is a terrible situation that we have. Right, so now let's summarize. I want to go back to this issue of the comments. We said CCC, they've done very well. They've had more candidates than ZANU-PF. So about 468 to ZANU-PF, we've got 451. Next is MDCT, we've got 60. It's a total collapse with the previous numbers. Then we've got UZA, that have got about 15, I think it's 58. We've got ZANK, we've got DUZ, and then we've got other smaller little parties that have put in the candidates, like Free Zim Congress. We've got 11 presidential candidates, but certainly this is a battle between President Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa. Chamisa is looking very, very good this time around, only within 3 months. So over the past 3 months, ZANU-PF has failed to heed advice. They've totally let the situation go there in terms of the economy. When you tell ZANU-PF guys to fix situations, they think you're being funny, but they don't understand the implications. Let's look at Mkoma Mpov. I said to you, take my number. I want you here. Let's address the issue of ZANU-PF. You talk to me all the time, but we need to address the issue of ZANU-PF. Is ZANU-PF ready with 2 months to go? Can we say the ZANU-PF election machinery is ready? The way things are going now, are they people that appear like they're going to an election? They are allowing the Zim dollar to do what it's doing? Imagine that you allow the Zim dollar to collapse by 5,000%, and then you just sit and you say the election is coming, it's still going to be the same. These are the kind of things that lose elections. You are going to have an election that you cannot understand if you do this kind of thing, if you allow that to happen. It doesn't matter how disorganized you call CCC. They've managed to have all those candidates in there. So what is ZANU-PF going to do? What is ZANU-PF going to do about it? What are you going to do about the situation in the country where people are buying bread for 6,000? I bought groceries in a trolley for 1.6 million. Do you think that's normal? So those are the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself if you're a ZANU-PF member or if you're a ZANU-PF candidate. Do you think people are just going to vote for you and they're buying groceries for 1.6 million? The guys who were carrying my groceries, they told me that the groceries that I bought in my trolley was more than the salary. The managers, they helped me to push my trolley to the car. It's 1.5 million that I used to buy a trolley of groceries. And is that normal to you in a country where a few months ago, it was 1:1,000? So that's a serious problem that ZANU-PF has got to deal with, and they are failing to deal with it. And I don't know how many times we have to speak about this kind of things. And you know what will happen if ZANU-PF was to win the election now. There will be a total change of the situation in Zimbabwe in terms of stability. It's not going to be easy for the current situation to change, because you saw what happened in Zambia. You have to replace a military system with a civilian system, and that becomes a very, very big problem. So I want to wrap this up. Sen Khaliphani Phugeni said he submitted his papers. He submitted to a colleague in the MDCT. the colleague didn't submit the papers with signatures, and so he was disqualified. He's not going to be contesting. Let's see what happens. We've got a lot of other new people in the CCC, and we're going to see when a country is recovering. First things first. I think we'll talk. I'll call you tomorrow, and then we'll see. I want ZANU-PF guys to come and defend this. Defend 1:5,000. Defend that, and then you get my vote. There is no one who's going to vote for 1:5,000. You can be assured of that. Even if Chamisa is not going to campaign, I said to you, if he sits home and doesn't campaign, then you say 1:5,000. Immediately you're going to have a problem. Deal with this thing now, because you've got 2 months. 2 months to deal with it. And many people are not telling the guys in ZANU-PF that when you see a big rally, those people are going to turn against you on the ballot box, on the day of the ballot box. And if Chamisa holds the rally in a place, it's going to be different. He's going to wipe out everything that you do as ZANU-PF if you don't fix the economy. So deal with the economy. Do not worry about the rallies. Right now, ZANU-PF's job is to fix the deterioration that is happening in the country. Right, let's talk about Jonas. Jonas is going to be coming as soon as I can get hold of him. I have not been able to get hold of Jonas in a long time. And let's see what Jonas has to say about the economy. I told him about the Reserve Bank. And I wish you could replay that video when I was explaining that the Reserve Bank is failing to manage the situation. They're failing to manage the Zimbabwe dollar. The only way you can manage the Zimbabwe dollar in the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is totally firing everyone there. And that is sad, because it can't happen. It's too late for the current government. Right, so let me wrap this up. Senator Khaliphani Phugeni is not coming. Certainly, he has said his piece, and we'll deal with other issues. There are many issues. Voters' roll, Xavier Kasukuwere, elections, all these things are coming up. We're going to be discussing all these things. Let's look at Kasukuwere tomorrow. Dr. Thaddeus Mthenjere is going to be here. And then we'll have a look at the impact of Xavier Kasukuwere on the election candidates, the ones that are there now. I've talked to Kasukuwere's guys and trying to understand what is he doing, what is his plan. And it's not clear to me what they're trying to do, but I know what is going to happen to Xavier Kasukuwere. Let's talk about that tomorrow with Dr. Thaddeus Mthenjere, and then let's see what happens. But as I said, CCC looking very, very good. ZANU-PF, they have to sit up and notice what is happening there. They have to deal with that situation. If I was the campaign manager for ZANU-PF, I would just totally change everything I'm doing. I would not go with arrogance, because the path to losing is getting clearer and clear. I can see it. I've seen people losing elections before. This thing that is happening in Zimbabwe now, if ZANU-PF does not deal with it, they are going to lose the election. And within 2 months, most of them are going to be back in the rural areas and tending their cattle. That is exactly what is going to happen. So good night, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Thank you very much, and good night.
Kuno aho pano mama wanna get it, mama wanna get it nice. I know food I miss so I know food